Tesla continues to keep prices lower, and that continues to keep the big three in the red. And I suspect it's going to be 2+ years, could be even longer, before the big three starts to see some profitability in electric. And I continue to believe that ultimately that some of these car companies that have been kind of the cornerstone of how we've thought about cars for the last 100 years will be a fraction of their size in the future. Which ones are at most risk? Hard to say, but I think that what's going on with the cost of labor is an important dynamic about that transition to EV, and a dynamic that has going to only increase in Tesla's favor in the weeks to come.
Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Randolph B and Tim D. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Earlier this year, we saw Tesla begin to hire for ADAS drivers up in Canada, but a few months later, it seems like Tesla is set to expand that program. Now they're hiring positions for supervisor. These new roles will continue to be hands-on. They'll continue to drive and run the test, but they'll also broaden their scope and start to focus on things like recruitment and training for new positions. On the Tesla careers page, there are currently 9 ADAS jobs open in Canada. Just a quick check-in for the Tesla Semi and the Run on Less event. We're at day 11 of 18, but if we take a look at yesterday, day number 10, and Tesla's truck number 3, you'll see it did 821 miles in one day with 3 deliveries. As you would imagine, there were 2 charging sessions for this day, and it's not like they're just letting this truck roll down a hill somewhere. The regenerative braking is relatively a small percentage of the overall energy in. 7 more days until we start to get some feedback from the event and a lot more insight into the tests that were taking place.
Our price target is $2,000, and that's a 2027 price target. So we think it has miles to go. It has just started, and we do believe it's the biggest AI opportunity in the world today. The autonomous taxi platform opportunity is going to be a winner-take-most opportunity. So the first company that gets people from point A to point B the fastest and the safest is probably going to be the biggest winner in the space. In the United States, we believe Tesla's in the pole position. And what's so interesting about autonomous taxi platform is the margin structure. The margin structure is compared to EVs, which are in the 20 to 30% gross profit margin range. The profit margin of autonomous taxi platforms are SaaS-like, software as a service-like, so 80% plus. So we believe that Tesla will have a blended margin in the next 5 to 10 years in the 50 to 60, perhaps higher range. Again, this is the biggest AI project in the world right now, and we think it's incredibly undervalued.
Just so you guys know, I am going to steal that blended margin term, so if you hear me refer to that in the future, that's exactly what I'm talking about. 50 to 60% range doesn't sound too bad. Yesterday, GM idled a plant in Kansas and laid off almost all of the about 2,000 people working there. They said there's no work available for most of the people at the Fairfax assembly plant because workers at another GM facility went on strike. And the company said they cannot provide supplemental unemployment benefits due to the circumstances of the situation. And Stellantis said it's laying off 68 workers in Ohio and another 300 in Indiana could soon follow. I'll be honest, I really don't know what this is, but I felt like I wanted to pass it along at the very least because that's certainly not a Chevy Bolt sitting under that wrap. This next brief video gives us a great indication of the scale of Tesla's V4 supercharger.
It is 10 years since Tesla introduced the first supercharger in Europe, and this was it, the V1. It had a current output of 100 kilowatts. Then we had the V2, here it is, with an output of 150 kilowatts. Most of us are now familiar with the V3, which can do 250 kilowatts, and now they're steadily rolling out the V4, which can do 250 kilowatts, but it's been future-proof, so it can do probably way more, though Tesla won't say.
Vessi is actually similar to Tesla in some ways. Namely, they let their products speak for themselves and they're continually innovating and releasing new products. So shout out to Vessi, the sponsor of this video. It's time to show you their latest creation, the Soho. If you're new, here's the scoop on Vessi. 100% waterproof shoes. Incredibly comfortable and lightweight, using Dymatex material that's breathable yet maintains waterproof properties. They're 100% vegan, no animal products used. The soles are grippy, making for great all-purpose shoes, and their manufacturing process is focused on reducing its carbon footprint, so Elon would be proud. The new Soho design has non-marking outsoles, so if you're one of those people like my wife that wear shoes indoors at times, they won't mark up your floors. They're easy to put on and take off, and I find myself reaching for these anytime I'm going out to run errands. The insoles are removable if you have your own orthotics, and they have waxed finish laces, which in my opinion ups the aesthetic factor. Checking out sponsors is one of the best ways to support creators, and with the holidays coming up, maybe you can grab some for your family as well. You can check out all of the Vessi styles at vessi.com/electrified and use my code electrified for 15% off your order. Enjoy. On X, Bojan said, when your neural net finishes training on an H100 cluster after a weekend, all you get is tens of gigs worth of NANS. NANS stands for not a number, which is essentially just an undefined value. In layman's terms, it's when it tries to do a math problem, but there's something wrong with the data or the model itself. Basically, math problems that don't work or can't be solved. To which Elon said, bringing up a large training cluster of H100s is currently extremely difficult. Same was true of A100s when they first came out, but now they run smoothly. Just a good reminder, I think a lot of people on the outside think, all right, Tesla goes and buys some chips and plugs them in, and then everything is off to the races, we're training up and running. I'm certainly not an expert, but I can tell you that is absolutely not how it works. This new Cybertruck wrap was recently spotted in the Bay Area on the 237. So I guess let the debates on if Tesla is going to offer custom wraps in-house for the Cybertruck ensue. Jaguar is finally on board, struck a deal with Tesla to adopt the NACS. Just like everyone else, they're throwing out that 12,000 supercharger number, so again, it's not all of Tesla's superchargers. The next generation of Jaguar's EVs launching in 2025 will incorporate the NACS connector without the need for an adapter in the USA, Canada, and Mexico. When it comes to Jag's current I-Pace EV, they'll supply adapters from Tesla once they're available. The Jaguar in-house battery and power electronics tech has been designed to optimize charging rates on both V3 and V4 superchargers. So here's the updated list, and you would imagine that Land Rover will quickly follow suit. This anti-Elon piece from The Guardian came out today. I just want to use it real quick to set the stage for this segment. As you can see very clearly, this is certainly a negatively biased article. To save you the time, it goes on to argue that the UAW needs to target Tesla next to unionize Tesla so they have a larger base of the auto employees. And they talk about how Elon and Tesla are essentially undermining everything the UAW is fighting for. I don't think I need to get into it, but this narrative that Tesla is out here paying slave-like wages to its workers is just ridiculous. There's a reason they get 3 million applications every year for new folks to work there. There's a reason Tesla has most likely minted more worker millionaires than any other auto company over the past 5 years, perhaps even combined. I think most of us here know that story well, and comments like this are certainly up for debate. However, today, for the first time, we have the New York Times reporting that the UAW, which failed to organize Tesla's factory workers in the past, is gearing up for another attempt, according to a top union official. There's a group of Tesla workers who are actively talking about forming a union and creating the best representation they can for themselves and their coworkers through collective bargaining. This coming from Mike Miller, the director of the UAW's Region 6, which includes California and Nevada. He declined to provide more details or identify these Tesla workers, saying they needed time to prepare before going public. He did say this union organizing effort is separate from a campaign at a Buffalo plant where Tesla makes EV chargers and employs data entry employees. You may recall back around 2016, workers at Tesla's Fremont plant started to to try to get momentum for a union vote, but it never made it that far. A refresher for the threshold: activists must get at least 30% of workers to sign union cards and force a vote overseen by the National Labor Relations Board. But as we know, even if they get the votes to actually get higher wages and increased benefits, it can often take years of negotiations, as we just saw with Amazon. Ford has said its hourly employees make an average of $112,000 per year, including benefits, compared to about $90,000 at Tesla. The Ford figures do not include stock options that Tesla grants employees. And just to be clear, this $90,000 figure is really just another way of saying that $45 per hour figure that's been thrown around the past week or so, which presumably would also not include Tesla stock options. Ultimately, I'm working with as limited of information as you are, and I'm sure there's a small cohort of workers at Tesla that may want to try again to unionize, because the truth is, if you're going to try to do it, now is 100% the time, at least sometime soon. But this really does seem to be the moment for the auto labor industry for the next 5 to 10 years. With that said though, given everything that we know, the scale and size of Tesla, the success of Tesla, how a union could slow down what Tesla does with its agile manufacturing, still seems pretty unlikely that Tesla ever actually becomes unionized. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try again. We're not diving into the entire history, but just a quick reminder, Elon said March of last year, the real challenge in the Bay Area was negative unemployment. If they don't treat and compensate their people well, they have many other offers and will just leave Tesla. I'd like to hereby invite UAW to hold a union vote at their convenience. Tesla will do nothing to stop them. Previously, we mentioned how Tesla had started showing off their autopilot cameras and their FSD computer at showrooms. As Zach has highlighted on X, now they're doing the same thing with a plaid drive unit and the heat pump. This one in Century City, Los Angeles. Farzad shared this study from the Washington Post that said 19% of Americans prefer to own a fully electric vehicle, and 46% still prefer to own a gas-powered vehicle regardless of how much it costs. Honestly though, if talking to my circle is any indication, this 46%, they don't know what they want. They've just never been in an electric vehicle and don't know anything about it. And I think what Farzad did is he just took this number that there's 84.2 million families in the United States, assumed each household had 2 cars, taking that number to roughly 160 million, multiplying by the 19% of that cohort that would want a fully electric vehicle to get that 30.4 million number for the EV TAM in the United States. Now, the counter to that point is obviously all of those families don't need to buy a new EV this year, but that's the math where it comes from. So knowing that, he said per Experian, there's about 1.7 million electric vehicles in the US now. So given this current demand from this study, that 19%, the fleet could 18x from today. But the main reason I'm sharing all of this is because Elon chimed in saying, again, affordability is the top issue by far. So again, Tesla and the team have all of the data. They see the real-time, live, daily demand, what people are saying. They have all of it. I just want to drive this point home for the entire Tesla community. Anytime we see new headlines about Tesla price cuts or incentives, just remember, it's a great thing for the long-term adoption, as it's the top issue by far. It's counterintuitive because everybody focuses on the margins right now, but as a long-term Tesla investor, price cuts are a thing to be celebrated. 1, it supports Tesla's mission, and 2, it grows the base in preparation for autonomy. However, what James said is also true. Awareness is high on the list. A lot of people who can afford to buy a Tesla don't know it's the best value for their money. This is absolutely true. Both of these can be true at the same time. According to the European Auto Manufacturers Association, they just said battery electric vehicles accounted for a record 21% of all new car registrations in the EU in August. This is the first time the BEV share has exceeded 20%. Tesla's Model Y has ranked as Europe's best-selling EV for the 8th month in a row in June, followed by its Model 3. June sales of the Model Y were more than triple that of VW's ID4. Not only that, but the Model Y is the best-selling new car in Europe through the first 8 months of the year. 151.1 thousand units have been sold in Europe January through August, putting the Model Y ahead of the Dacia Sandero with 148,000 units and the VW T-Roc in third with 138.3 thousand. Let me remind you that the Model Y has an average selling price of around $55,000. The Sandero is closer to $15,000, and the VW T-Roc is in the neighborhood of about $35,000. And don't forget, even though Tesla is unwinding the delivery wave, still typically the third month of the quarter, which is September and not included in that data, is Tesla's best-selling month in the EU. So those demand problems that people were talking about for Tesla in Europe earlier this year, I don't really think so. Ron DeSantis just pledged to slow America's transition to EVs and to dramatically ramp up domestic fossil fuel production. I know this is a very nuanced conversation, and energy independence is absolutely something that we should strive for. But what I can say for sure is slowing the transition to electric vehicles is not the right decision. Why can I say that so confidently? Because without these incentives, legacy auto is never going to make the transition. If Tesla wasn't literally forcing these companies to change their business models, they never would have changed on their own, which means we'd be stuck breathing in these pollutants from ICE vehicles forever. Last thing I'll say, look, you can argue whatever you want to about climate change. However, when it comes to breathing in the emissions and pollutants from ICE vehicles, they're absolutely making people sick and killing people slowly over time. That is not up for debate. But the main reason I brought this up is because he said he plans to repeal Biden's EV mandates and prevent California and faceless bureaucrats from setting America's environmental standards. And yes, I know he's backed by oil and gas, so I understand all of it, but certainly something to watch over the next year. Most of us knew it was coming, but now it's a bit more official. Tesla has drawn up plans to make and sell battery storage systems in India and submitted a proposal to officials seeking incentives to build a factory. We've known Tesla has been in talks with India for a factory to make the next-gen vehicle, but this is the first time we've heard about a renewable energy project. In recent meetings, Tesla proposed supporting the country's battery storage capabilities with its Powerwall. Tesla sought a number of incentives to set up a battery storage factory, but Indian officials conveyed these would not be available. However, they said the government could help create a fair business model for the company by offering subsidies to those purchasing such products. Important to note, this is not a done deal. They said it's not certain if the plan will be realized. But Tesla was keen to find residential as well as industrial customers for its battery storage systems. If you've been watching, we've been saying for months that India is ripe for battery energy storage, so this really should be no surprise. The source said large policy level calibration will be required. Tesla's intent is to have the Powerwall business in India. They said Tesla could look at developing larger solutions for industry if the India plan comes to fruition, which is really the only hint at Megapack we get in the entire article. Indian officials have said Tesla will have to work on reducing the cost of its battery storage products, adding the government could help to unlock the market with demand expected to be high. I'd like to make the jump to India being the third location for a Tesla Megapack factory or Megapactory, but the way this article is written, it really does seem like it would be Powerwall first and then Megapack if things go well. Ordinarily, I'd dive into this one, but we really have been covering this fairly extensively, talking about India and all of their government incentives for BESS projects, like India offering $455 million in incentives to companies setting up battery storage projects. They did say contracts will be awarded through a competitive process with the company with the lowest bid selected, which is certainly not always the best way to go about things. But with perfect timing, today we had Tesla Energy say using Powerwall, this sports club in Germany went from spending €600 a month on electricity to earning up to €20 per month. This report was shared last year talking about India battling one of its worst power crises in 6 years while going through one of the hottest summers on record. The TLDR of what caused this problem was a coal shortage. We know that Elon and Narendra Modi get along really well. India needs Tesla's technology. It seems like they'll figure something out, it's just a matter of when. Thailand's prime minister said today he held talks with Elon Musk during a visit to New York, and they talked about EVs. He said, "We look forward to further discussions." His administration was ready to support investments within the existing incentive framework. In a statement from their government, it said Tesla praised Thai human capital, which was suitable for investment. When it comes to the EV market in Thailand, they accounted for 6.4% of all passenger car sales in the region in the second quarter, up from 3.8% in Q1. Nio is now releasing its own iPhone. The plan is for it to sync with Nio cars to act as a key fob, to view information like battery charge, and to control functions like self-parking and the in-cabin infotainment system. If you ask me, these are pretty much all things you should be able to do with a good app on a customer's phone that they already own. This new Nio Phone should cost right around $900. William Lee, Nio's CEO, said, "We want our phone to connect seamlessly with the car and bring a better user experience to our owners." The phone will be sold via Nio's online store, though initial deliveries may be limited due to supply constraints. As we recently talked about, Nio has yet to make a profit from making EVs, and last quarter it lost $800 million. Lee also said that Nio's gross margin should return to double digits in the third quarter and then improve from there after dropping as low as 1% in the prior quarter. Nio is aiming for 20% longer term gross margins. I don't know how much money or time R&D talent Nio has allocated to this mobile phone project, but it does feel like a distraction from the core product that is yet to be profitable. But Polestar is planning to do the same thing, and if customers can just put the cost of this phone into their car loan, it may not be as big of a deal. I'm just saying, from a customer perspective, I don't want to walk around with two phones, so would I be ready to give up my iPhone for this new Nio phone? In case you're looking, there are now some Rivian R1T dual motor large pack size trucks in their available inventory. Also, in case you're in the market, Hyundai is offering complimentary chargers and up to $600 off their installation fee, which could be a discount of about $1,100. The offer is for anybody leasing or buying a brand new 23 or 24 Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, or 2023 Kona Electric, but it has to be through Hyundai Motor Finance, good until October 31st. We heard about Elon talk about the lead times for transformers when it comes to neural net training, but it also impacts battery energy storage too. There's a squeeze in the supply chain for high voltage equipment, including transformers. A director of energy storage services have said that lead times for some of these transformers have tripled or doubled. 12 months would have been typical for large transformers in the past, but now that has ballooned to almost 3 years. And they said it's almost every customer we're dealing with, and it's not related to just storage, it's for all of their projects, whether it's wind or solar. Just something to have on your radar for the best world. The latest update with the UAW, it sounds like they're still pretty far apart from the big three on how they define these wage tiers. The companies are saying the tiers refer to multiple wage structures that top out at different levels, but the union believes in a broader definition that includes starting new hires at a pay rate that starts lower and rises as they gain seniority. The big three have all said they've offered to end tiers according to their point of view, but the union leaders argue tiers include the 8-year progression most hourly workers take to reach top wages. The big three have agreed to cut that time to 4 years, but the union still considers that insufficient. The UAW also wants all workers to be covered by defined benefit pensions again. I think it's good context to understand where these wage tiers began. It was back in 2007 to keep the automakers financially viable. So could getting rid of them mean that they're going to go back to being financially unviable? The UAW wants a system that pays workers top wages after 90 days. We did not get any details on it, but it sounds like Stellantis has made the first new offer from any of the big three since the UAW went on strike Friday. And we've talked about the supply chain being under pressure already due to uneven production schedules, high material costs, and a tight labor market, as well as shortages. We already have tier 1 suppliers going to their automaker customers asking for concessions on pricing to account for increased costs. The co-chair of an auto law firm has said the biggest concern I've universally heard from my supplier clients is the ability to come back online on short notice. It's going to be very difficult, especially the longer the strike goes on, and everyone is worried OEM customers are going to demand an overnight return to full production. It's not realistic. Just another reason in a long list to be vertically integrated as much as possible. Don't forget, check out Vessi linked below. Take advantage of that discount. Maybe grab some for a family or friend. I really do think they're awesome shoes, and they have some other stuff too. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.